Hello everyone and welcome to the Clutch Chess 2025 event where four incredible players will battle it out over the next 3 days. It is world champion Gukesh, Magnus, Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana. And it's a pretty interesting event. The time control is rapid, 10+5, which I think it's a nice combo of fast-paced chess, but also we're not gonna get flagged. I think the games will be incredibly serious and incredibly precise, and also it's a clutch version of a scoring system, if you will. On the first day, you get 1 point for a win. On the second day, you get 2 points for a win. And on the third day, you get 3 points for a win. So as the event goes on, it becomes more intense. Very interesting. And first game, already we see something incredible. As the title suggests, something is about to happen very, very quickly, as the game is very short, so let's dive straight into it. Gukesh with white opens with pawn to e4, and Magnus goes for pawn to d6. He opts for the Pirt's defense. d4, we have knight to f6, knight to c3, and pawn to e5. So the most standard way you can play this: knight to f3 and knight b to d7. We have bishop to c4, bishop to e7, castle by both players, so castles, pawn to a4 and pawn to c6. Thousands and thousands of games in the database. This is the so-called lion variation of the Pirts. Rook to e1, and here pawn to b6 is very, very popular. Pawn to h6, not the most popular, but still common in top grandmaster games. We have pawn to h3, rook e8, and bishop to e3. So both players just nicely developing pieces. E captures on d4, bishop captures, and now a common move here is knight to f8. And there are again many grandmaster games with this exact same setup. For example, knight to f8 was played in Pragnananda versus Nodibek Abdusatrov, also Fedoseev versus Rapport, and many others. But here we have bishop to f8 by Magnus, and this has only been played once. We have knight to d2, and in that game bishop to a2 was played. Here we have knight to d2, and it is now, as of move 12, that we have a completely new game. Okay, Magnus goes knight e5, takes the center, attacks the bishop back all the way to f1, not to e2. E2, well, it can be played, you're sort of in the way of your own rook. So for the moment, the Gukesh brings it all the way to f1, and later on, you will invite it back into the game. Knight g6 by Magnus, now eyeing that f4 and h4 squares, and pawn to a5, grabbing more space on the queen side and preventing Magnus from going pawn to a5. We have bishop to e6 and pawn to g3, stopping the knight from coming to f4 or h4. And now you've done all you can. It's time to strike in the center. Pawn to b5, pawn to d5. Pawn to b5 is another option here that you can play. Then we trade everything en passant, and then the rooks come off the board probably. But Magnus just goes for striking in the center. We have pawn to d5, bishop to g2, and bishop to b4. Okay, putting pressure on pretty much everything. The central e4 pawn is the star of this story. We have pawn to a6 by Gukesh, and now we have a capture fest. B captures on a6, E captures on d5. We have knight captures on d5, knight captures, bishop captures on d5. Sorry, not bishop captures. First, a trade on e8, rook captures on e8 with check, queen captures, bishop captures on d5, and now c captures on d5, followed by pawn to c3 before recapturing that a pawn. We have bishop back to f8 by Magnus, and the rook captures on a6. Gukesh grabs the pawn. He's attacking the a7 pawn, and if he can gobble that up and then start advancing the past b pawn, that's going to be great. But Magnus says, nope, not today. Plays queen b5, attacks the rook, attacks the pawn, and now Gukesh has to choose whether he trades or he goes back and defends. He decides to defend. We have rook a2, and now Magnus advances the a pawn. Pawn to a5, we have queen to a4, offering a queen trade. Magnus not interested. Queen to d3. And here, b4 is definitely a move to consider. It was not played in the game, but I will show it because it's what always works. And here you would see bishop captures, c captures, queen captures, and now b captures on a5, where the queens can or, don't have to be traded off, but you would get something like this. It's the passed a pawn versus the passed d pawn. I would say, it's maybe a little bit easier to play with the outside pass pawn. But okay, Gukesh goes knight f1, and Magnus goes rook to a6. Now with ideas of even sacrificing the pawn and bringing the rook into the attack. Okay, pawn to b4 and rook to e6, giving up the a pawn, but here capturing it and allowing rook e1 is same as resigning. So here we have rook to d2, attacking Magnus's queen, queen to f5, and now b captures on a5. Gukesh now creates a passed a pawn, and Magnus could go for rook to e1 if he wants to play the sharpest move, but he goes queen captures on h3. He has something else in mind, and the situation on the clock is fairly similar. An hour and 12, a minute and 12 seconds, and a minute and 29 seconds. We have pawn to a6. Gukesh starts advancing the passed pawn, and rook to e1. Magnus just threatening mate on f1, and queen b5. Gukesh says, all right, I have the passed a pawn, my queen is guarding f1. What are you doing? I mean, isn't this just winning for me? Well, Magnus says, nope, bishop to c5. Absolutely disgusting, but at the same time beautiful. Of course, the queen cannot capture due to mate on f1. Bishop, on the other hand, if you play it, well, it's playable, but then knight e5 coming to f3, and again, you can resign. So Gukesh has to figure out how to solve this, and there's only one way to do it. Queen to d3. Okay, we have bishop captures by Magnus, c captures on d4, and now Magnus goes rook to a1. Keeps eye on that a7 square, also continues putting pressure on this knight on f1. All that worries Magnus is how do you get that knight into the game? And Gukesh's next move solves that for Magnus. Gukesh plays rook to d1, offers a rook trade, and now Magnus is completely winning. But if only that was the case, chess would not be the rich game that it is. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, you have to offer a knight, but there are two ways to do it. Knight f4 or knight to h4. Which one did you go for? Knight to h4 is actually the only move that wins the game, for the very simple reason that queen g2 is the threat of checkmate, and if you capture the knight, then it seems like you cannot capture the queen because the rook is defending, and also there's a knight on f1. But there's this nasty queen g4 check, and now you pick up the rook, and then the position is winning. It's very, very difficult to calculate this. For example, king to h2, you're going to play rook captures on d1, and now you can offer a queen trade, for example, queen captures, and even if you trade, you don't mind the pawn. It's very easy to pick that pawn up. You can even capture on d4 and grab it that way. But Magnus played knight to f4, and Gukesh had some 7 minutes on the clock when this was played, and he believed Magnus that it is the exact same thing. He was very much shocked. He looked at his time. He saw it was running low, and he didn't think that there was anything that can be played here. I would say if it was anyone else other than Magnus, Gukesh would not believe him. He would find knight to e3, because believe it or not, knight to e3 here holds the game, because it's very much different. Now, what do you play? Because you kind of have to capture the queen, but you also can't, because if you capture the queen, then rook captures on a1, and now the pawn is marching forward, and there's no queen f4, knight f4. Knight f4 doesn't really do anything. So you have to go back with the queen just to stop the pawn. It's the only way to play, otherwise you're going to lose. And after knight captures on d5, let's say queen to a8, you go knight c7. You attack the queen will move, queen to f3, you go a7, and there's nothing better for black than to accept a draw by perpetual. King to h1, queen to f3 check, and so on, and so on. So incredible moment here. Magnus misses it. Knight to h4 was winning. Magnus goes knight to f4, and Gukesh trusts the former world classical champion and resigns here. Or yeah, I think he resigned. There was still time on the clock. He resigned, and then the clock on the situation on the clock depleted. But yeah. Incredible stuff here. So yeah, never trust Magnus, and never trust anyone, regardless of who your opponent is. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you also want to stay clutch under pressure, feel free to download Lotus Chess. First link in the description below, and really, really learned how to play some cool lines. I've been using it for some 3 months now. It's incredible. You will love it, guaranteed. And also, I would like to thank P.A. Bauer, Gerard St. Pierre, Brazos Valley Chess Society, Francesco Corradi, and Uzi Shale for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, but now mostly covering this event until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.